It's on mixtv.tv, on YouTube, and also on Facebook. Excited about this whole streaming thing that we've got going on now, Jim.
Yeah, streaming is the way to go. It's so funny that you say that because I'm actually in the process of cutting the cord. And anyone that works at Spectrum, please just ignore what I'm saying right now because I'm about to cancel with you.
We're about to get some callers here in a minute.
Oh, Lord, I'm just messing with listen, that's the way to go these days because streaming, I mean, everything is being streamed these days. So, yeah, I'm excited. We're on the cutting edge, if you want to call it that, here on ESPN Cleveland. So, yeah, excited. So there's various ways for you can listen to the show, and we'd love to have you to call us up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a lot of things to talk about. By the way, we do have a guest today at 5:15, but any other time, give us a call and just voice your opinion about what's going on with the Braves. Are only 2 games under 500.
Listen, that's a hot topic right now because the Braves have turned it on. We're going to talk about that here a little bit more later in the show. But again, the volunteer Ridapest text and phone line, so you can text us or you can call us, is 423-749-1013. Once again, 423-749-1013, the volunteer Ridapest phone and text line.
Yeah, so we're excited about getting that stuff going, and our goal is for the listeners out there to be a part of the program. We understand that, we've got all these notes and we got all these things we want to talk about, but we want to discuss the things that you want to talk about. Hey, if you call us up and you want to change the subject, we'll flow with it, won't we? So
that's right.
We're excited about everything here.
Yeah, you can call in and ask us some questions, and we'd be glad to give you our opinion. Listen, that's one thing about sports radio. Like, everyone has an opinion.
That's exactly right.
And everyone's opinion is usually pretty unique to the the person beside him has a completely different opinion.
And I'm convinced that people out there listening to us, we give our opinion, and they're sitting there going, "Those guys are idiots. They don't know what they're talking about." Hey, listen, if you have a different opinion, call us up. Listen. It's a two-way street. The world would be boring and sports would be boring if we all agreed on everything. That's why we've all got our takes. We got our likes, our dislikes. Andy likes one thing, I may dislike it, and vice versa, and that's fine. And that's what makes sports fun, because it would be boring if we all agreed on everything and we all like the same teams, we all dislike the same teams. So we want to have that interaction with each other and with our audience out there. I know here in Cleveland, there's so many. This is a melting pot here in Cleveland and the greater Chattanooga area. You got Alabama fans, Georgia fans, of course, you got Tennessee fans, and we've got. Listen, just drive around Cleveland one day during football season and look at all the flags flying off of all the vehicles. I mean, you got West Virginia, you've got Memphis, you got Georgia Tech, you've got Clemson, you got South Carolina, you got Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan. You've got all those schools. We'd love to hear.
I don't know if we got Michigan fans around here. Come on.
We've got some Michigan fans. I've seen them. Listen, it was so funny. I was at Lowe's the week after Ohio State won the national championship, and of course I'm got my Ohio State sweatshirt on, and some dude with a blue sweatshirt with a big old gold M on there. He just kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and we just kind of went. I'm sitting there going, yeah, I know. You got us, but we got the Natty. So, and that's funny because, you get on social media and you hear people go, yeah, Michigan beat Ohio State. Yeah, you guys won the national championship, but we beat you. I'm like, yeah, I know. I mean, so there is that double-edged sword.
Sometimes that's what it takes to get that motivation to finish your season strong, and that's what happened with Notre Dame. That terrible loss to Northern Illinois, like it was part of the story, part of the process. And listen, if there's one thing that Jim and I are both good at, and listen, we very, very rarely pat ourselves on the back, but something that we're excellent at, we're awesome at it, we're better than just about anybody at, it's throwing shade at Michigan.
Yeah, but
Jim didn't know where I was going with that.
Ohio State's lost 4 straight to Michigan. There's not a whole lot I can say. I just keep my mouth shut, and I'm like, yeah, okay, they beat us. They beat us fair and square. They deserve to win. But I would trade a loss to Michigan every year for a national
title. Absolutely.
Do I like it? No, I don't like it.
And it's funny because some Michigan fans will say, as long as we beat Ohio State every year.
And I'm going to tell you something. This is real. There are Ohio State fans out there that would rather beat Michigan than win a national championship. I don't get that mentality.
There were people calling for Ryan Day's job with that mentality.
And Tennessee, the same would hold true with Tennessee and Alabama. I know Tennessee fans that hate Alabama so much, they would rather go 1-11 and that one win be against the University of Alabama than to go 11-1 and lose that one game.
But is that not...
It's crazy.
One of the things, though, that makes sports so great, the differing opinions of the fans. And listen, without the fans, that's one of the things. You want to talk about all these NIL deals, which we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute, and all those kind of things that the big money part of the industry of sports, the fans are what keep it going.
I think you'll agree with this. COVID was a unique world that we lived in, okay? The craziest and the weirdest thing was watching sports without people in the stands. I hated it.
It was terrible.
It was terrible. You had cutouts. I mean, for crying out loud, I think the Oakland A's put like stuffed animals in some of their seats.
And the piped-in fan sound. Yeah.
It took away from sports. There was nothing that I hated more than to watch a basketball game and all you heard was the squeakiness of the sneakers on the court. There was no fans. I'm like, this is not baseball, football. The fans are part of the experience. You've been to big time football games, and to high five some guy you don't even know who he is sitting next to you or behind you or in front of you. That's what makes it fun. It's what makes it fun. And there's nothing more fun than I've been like this. I've been like the 1% or 2%. I'm the visiting fan in the home stadium. Okay. I'm wearing the other colors. Everyone around me hates me, but my team's winning. So, I kind of keep it to myself. I don't sit there and I don't try to rub it in, but they can't say a word to me. When you're the visiting fan and at the away game, that's kind of weird in a way, but if your team's winning, it feels pretty darn good.
Listen, so it's funny that you say that. And first of all, we got a big show for you today. A friend, Jim's, is calling in, Christy Dosh, who's going to cover a lot of NIL stuff. Yeah. And I'll let you kind of introduce her as the time comes. But if you could just let our listeners know what they can expect from that call today.
Well, the thing that I've got, her title is a sports business analyst. I've never heard of that before. And she's with the Business of College Sports. That's where, if you go to businessofcollegesports.com, that's her website. But she's the author of a book called The Athlete's NIL Playbook. And
she's a former corporate attorney as well.
Right. And the thing about her is that I met her at the SEC football media days, probably 10 years ago, maybe somewhere around there, way before NIL. And she's seen what's going on, and she's transitioned herself into this world of NIL that, to me, I'm clueless about it. I really am. We talked about all this stuff with going on with Nico Iamaleava and Madden, his brother. And then you see where Madden has also transferred to UCLA, and the NIL folks over there at Arkansas are like, wait a minute, services rendered, you didn't perform what you got paid for.
Looking for some back payment.
We're looking for reimbursement. And so I'm curious to what all this entails, and are these true contracts? Is an NIL agreement? You always hear the word agreement. I think we need to take it from agreement to contract, because we've all signed contracts. I've signed contracts when I bought my house. Guess what, Andy? If I don't make payments, I'm not going to own that house very long. I've signed a contract that I will fulfill my promise to make payments, and it's like anything else. I mean, just anything you owe money on. If you don't make payments, there's ramifications.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting to hear what all she knows about the NIL world, because I'm completely clueless about this world. We talk about it, but in reality, I don't know a whole lot about it. And I'm curious, we always hear about these big deals. There's guys making 7 figures. Most athletes aren't making that much.
Yeah.
We know that. We've got athletes down at UTC. They're probably making maybe a couple $100 here and there for their image and likeness, which is what it's supposed to be. But it pales in comparison to the athletes at the highest level. A football player in the SEC or the Big Ten or Notre Dame or wherever, those athletes, especially the quarterback, the highest, the biggest name, the big man on campus, if we will, we all know about those.
Yeah.
It's the other ones and how these are, because I don't really know. I really don't know. What's the point guard at UTC's women's team? What's she make?
Yeah, there's no telling.
I'm sure she's making
it's
something.
The thing is, it's probably different everywhere you go,
right.
too, depending on who boosters are, what sponsors are of the team and in the area. But I'm really excited about that call with Christy Dosh at 5:15, and then again around 5:35 we'll have Rhett Bryan, executive producer and game day host of the Tennessee Titans, going to call in and recap the Titans, which I consider a great draft that they had this past weekend. So a couple calls we're going to take today that we're excited about. And listen, if you guys have questions, call or text the Volunteer Ridipest text and phone line at 423-749-1013, and we will try to pass those questions along to our callers that we have in today. But listen, you were talking about hostile environments a minute ago, and I wanted the listeners to know what we had on tap for them later in the show. But going back to that, I've been to some games where so I was at the NL Wild Card game in 2012, and it was Cardinals-Braves. That was the infield fly game. And you talk about the fan reaction at that. I mean, there was stuff raining down on us from the upper decks.
It was bad.
All the trash that was thrown onto the field. I've been to Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee as a Notre Dame fan playing Florida State, and that's a fun environment. That's neat. Those fans at Florida State are passionate about their team, but at the same time, it was fun to experience it as an opposing fan, because my brother, who's a huge Florida State fan, I've been on that side in Doak Campbell with him going to Florida State games, and you talk about two fan bases that really make a huge part of that rivalry. They hate each other.
They do, and it's so funny because I know people that they would rather that their hated rival lose more than their favorite team win. They actually root harder for their rival to lose a game than if their team wins. So you got that kind of the dynamic where you're rooting for your team, but you're also rooting against your rival. So that's what makes collegiate sports so much fun. And I can't wait to talk to Christy about the NIL world too. So we got a lot of stuff on tap today for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Talladega was this past weekend. The Jax Links 500 down there at the Talladega Super Speedway, and the little bit of drama that went on with that as well. But Austin Cindric came away with the win. But listen, Chipper Jones has gotten involved, kind of calling out Joey Logano. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so listen, we're not going to overstep too much because Finish Line Radio will have you guys covered tomorrow, just as long as the Braves don't run them off air. But Finish Line Radio
right.
from 6 to 7 o'clock right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. But Chipper Jones got in on X and said congrats to Austin Cindric on his Talladega win. Good teammates are hard to come by. Boss, remember that one of us, and I'm going to blank this word out, messed with you on national TV when in actuality you did everything possible to keep from wrecking him. Listen, I've got to be careful because this is Chipper. Chipper was probably well hydrated when he made this. But he said some people are hooray for our team as long as I'm the star, as every team has them. And then he went on to name several teams. He said, sometimes karma is glorious. Enjoy this one. In case anyone is confused, let me be clear, Joey Logano. So he straight up called Joey Logano out for not being a good teammate. So Chipper Jones getting involved in some NASCAR. And, of course, we are your Brave station right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. So anytime Chipper Jones is involved with some fun X posts, back in the day, we used to call them tweets. We got to talk about it a little bit.
For sure, no doubt about that.
Well, hey, with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, yes, we're talking NIL with Christy Dosh. So be sure to tune in right after this break to get educated like Jim and I are about to.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardees.
Strawberries and springtime go hand in hand. Now at Hardees, they come together with a hint of lemon in our famous buttermilk biscuits. Introducing Hardees Strawberry Lemon Biscuits, loaded with berry goodness and drizzled in icing. Served warm from sunrise to supper time. The perfect taste to bring on the sunshine all day long. But hurry, this special strawberry lemon flavor is as fleeting as springtime itself. Hardees, goodness in the making. Available for a limited time. Exclusions may apply by time of day.
This is Thomas Williams with Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. Stop by today and take advantage of Bradley County's largest pre-owned inventory, or visit cleveland-nissan.com, home of the lifetime warranty.
Got an injury that just can't wait? There's no need to delay your care. Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is excited to announce that our Urgent Ortho Walk-In Clinic is now available on Saturdays at the Gun Barrel Road location. Open from 8 to noon, we're here to treat sprains, strains, fractures, and more. No appointment needed. So skip the long ER wait and get specialized orthopedic care fast. Visit us this Saturday at Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Urgent Ortho. We're the center for expert care right when you need it. Learn more at sportmed.com.
Hey guys, this is Dan Good from Crown. Just reminding you that Crown Ram is Cleveland and Bradley County's Ram headquarters.
Checking the Cash is your one-stop money shop and has been helping customers with cash solutions since 1993. If you're short on cash and need a little help to overcome a financial hurdle, we're here for you. Our Chattanooga area stores, including Cleveland and Athens, offer payday loans and flex line of credit options. We understand that doing the research for these loans can be overwhelming. That's why we strive to make the application process simple and convenient. We also provide quick in-store services like check cashing, money orders, wire transfers, and even gift card buyback. Want to learn more about your options? Visit our website at checkanddocash.com. Our lending decisions are made quickly, and if approved, you can have cash in hand. Take the first step toward a bright financial future. We're here to help. Not all consumers will qualify. Eligibility, rates, terms, and conditions apply. Rates, restrictions, and fees apply to store services. Please call or visit your local store for details.
Magnolia Dental Center of Cleveland wants to welcome you to the Magnolia family, a local dental clinic that uses their God-given knowledge and skills to bless our community through dentistry. From checkups and cleanings to dentures and all-on-4 dental implants, they can help you feel healthier and more confident. Conveniently located at 2190 Chambliss Avenue, join the Magnolia family today. Call 423-476-3307 for your free exam and x-rays.
Welcome back to The Drive, presented by Hardees. Join the conversation. Text 423-749-1013. You can also listen anywhere on our website, ESPNCleveland1013.com.
You're listening to The Drive here on ESPN Cleveland. Hope everyone out there is having a good afternoon. Hey, by the way, Duracell is now hiring mechanical skilled technicians from $22 to $27 an hour. Excellent benefits beginning on day number 1. Medical, dental, and vision insurance, paid vacation, holiday pay, 401k, tuition reimbursement, and more. Apply at Duracell.com. That's Duracell.com. And we're proud to have Christy Dosh is joining us this afternoon. She is with the she is a sports business analyst with Business of College Sports and the author of the Athletes NIL Playbook. How you doing, Christy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a long time since I've seen you, Christy. I don't know if you remember, but we met in Hoover, Alabama at the SEC Football Media Days several years ago, way before the world of NIL came into being. So kind of share with our listeners a little bit about you and your background and how in the world you got into the world of the NIL.
Yeah, that was a whole nother world back then. No NIL and a few less teams in the SEC back then, too.
Yeah.
So I've really been following NIL since Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit against the NCAA more than a decade ago. I was a practicing attorney back then, but I wrote and commentated some on legal issues in college sports, and that was one of the very first cases I covered, and that was an issue over his likeness being used in the EA Sports college basketball video games. And we've sort of seen cases chipping away at the lack of name, image, and likeness rights for college athletes ever since then. So I've been sort of paying attention to it all these years, transitioned careers from being a corporate attorney to being a sports business reporter, and kept digging in on it more. And when I saw that California passed their Fair Pay to Play Act back in 2019 going into 2020, and other states started following suit, I realized NIL was coming. Mm-hmm. It was all a matter of what it was going to look like, but it was definitely coming. And once that July 1st, 2021 date was set, I really turned my focus to this. And, I thought it would keep me busy for like 6 to 9 months after NIL started. I'd do a lot of reporting on those early deals, and then the market would sort of like settle out for it, and we would have like a new normal, and we'd all move on with our lives, and I would go back to writing about other things. And here we are 4 years later, and it's still the only thing I write and talk about because it has not settled down. It continues to change, and we'll have even more changes this year with revenue sharing.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. But here in the volunteer state, we all know what happened in Knoxville. Nico Iamaleava bolted after a disagreement about his NIL deal, and then shortly after that, his brother Madden left Arkansas. And then the Arkansas NIL folks, they said that, hey, they're going to try to get some reimbursement from him because basically for work not completed. And so what's the deal about most NIL? Are they true contracts, Christy?
Yeah, so these contracts, the way that they are currently laid out before we get into revenue sharing in July is that athletes are getting paid for the use of their NIL in a variety of different ways. So in their contract, it might say that they have to make a certain number of personal appearances during the school year, or they have to sign a certain number of autographed items. Maybe they have to put up a certain number of social media posts. It could be a combination of all those kinds of things in order to receive their payments. Now, that's what the contract says. We all know what's really happening here is that these collectives and boosters are paying athletes to come play at their school, but pay for play isn't allowed. And so the black and white of the contract says it's for all these various NIL activities. And now we're starting to see buyout clauses like we see in coaching contracts. That is a big part of the revenue sharing contracts that are coming. This last recruiting class was already receiving those, even though revenue sharing isn't starting until presumably July. They're still getting those contracts out to this incoming recruiting class with some caveats about the House settlement being approved that allows revenue sharing. But this is the first challenge that we've seen to this buyout clause. It's the first time we've seen a collective go after an athlete. And I've talked to a few attorneys on this matter, and we all sort of agree it's going to be difficult for the Arkansas collective to prove that it was harmed in the way it would be required to prove to get this buyout clause, because it's not an employment contract. It actually doesn't look like a coach's contract because this isn't for employment. And without getting into the sort of legal nitty-gritty here, the collective is going to have to prove that the amount of that damages clause is equal to the harm they are suffering. And that's going to be tough to show when it's just based on use of his NIL that they haven't even really used yet. So I don't anticipate that this case is going to be successful for the collective, but I do think we're going to see a lot more of this going forward when revenue sharing comes into play this summer and fall.
We're talking to Christy Dosh from sports. She's a sports business analyst with the Business of College Sports and the author of the Athletes NIL Playbook. Now, you brought up revenue sharing. Now, what's the difference between revenue sharing and NIL? I think I know what it is, but share with our listeners out there what the difference is. We know revenue sharing is starting up this summer.
Yes, that's a great question, because really revenue sharing is still NIL. It's just coming from a different place.
Right.
So when we talk about NIL, we talk about it from coming outside of the athletic department. It comes from an outside organization we refer to as a collective, which is generally a group of boosters who are raising money in order to do NIL deals with athletes. And sometimes they're matching up local businesses and brands with athletes. So those are NIL deals, or that's what we call them. Revenue sharing is going to come direct from the athletic department. However, it is still for the use of the athlete's name, image, and likeness. It is just for the athletic department using it instead of the collective. And it's a result of this legal case, House v. NCAA. Grant House, a former Arizona State swimmer, filed this case along with some other athletes, and it became a class action. And part of the settlement of this case is that schools are going to be allowed to share up to a certain dollar amount each year with their athletes. And for this first year, it's going to be $20.5 million, assuming the House settlement is approved. It actually has not been approved, but everyone's been moving forward as if it's going to be. And that means that every Division I school is going to get to make the choice if they want to share up to $20.5 million with their athletes. They could decide to share nothing. They could decide to share $5 million, or they can go the full 20.5. So every school is going to look a little different in terms of how much of that they decide to commit to athletes, and then who they actually decide to sign. You know, a lot of schools presumably are going to spend the bulk of it on football and men's basketball. But there have been some interesting articles here during and since March Madness about Division I schools that don't have football and how much they're going to put towards just men's basketball, and that perhaps that might make them, even more competitive, because the big football schools are going to have to split the money between football and men's basketball, whereas some of these schools that don't have football can go a little more all in on men's basketball, and it might actually make them more competitive in that sport. So it'll be interesting to see how that all works itself out.
So basically you're saying a school like Villanova, who I know they've got an FCS school, but they're not pouring the money into the FCS like an Alabama or an Ohio State is.
Right.
So they can put more money towards basketball. And listen, we may see some like St. John's this year or Villanova, maybe some of those Big East schools can rise back up to the glory that we saw back in the 80s. That is very interesting stuff. Now, let me ask you this. This revenue sharing, does that make it a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots?
It does. You know, there are some sort of rules in place that will prevent that a little bit. So we see new roster limits that are coming in with this, and it's for every single sport. I think women's basketball was the only sport that the roster limit they're getting is not higher than the number of scholarships they were already allowed to give. So everybody's got these different roster limits. They can provide full scholarships to everyone on the roster, which is also new. But it actually in football is going to mean we see roster sizes shrink. We're going to see walk-ons who are no longer going to be on those rosters because the roster size isn't going to be as big as what schools have been carrying up to this point. So you'll actually see a little more movement, especially in football. The sort of flip side of that is some of the projections are that across all of the sports, up to 3,000 roster spots might ultimately be lost as schools shift and move things around to make room for revenue sharing and to clear their budget to be able to share that $20.5 million with their athletes. And so I think we'll see football impacted the most. But the good side of that is we might see the talent disperse a little bit more and maybe a little bit more competitive balance going forward. We'll see.
You know, Christy, forever we saw athletes, wanting to get to the NBA or the NFL as fast as they could. Now, with the money they were making in college, now you're seeing guys like, Diego at Vanderbilt fighting to get an extra year in college because of the money. It's really changed the dynamic. And listen, I always love to see basketball players playing 3 and 4 years. And with the NIL, we may get a return back to that because I thought college basketball was better in the 80s because you had guys staying there for 3 and 4 years. And I think that could actually make college basketball a better sport. Now, obviously, football, you had to play 3 years anyway. But do you think that this will make college basketball a better sport?
Yeah, I think football, too. I mean, we've seen quite a few players decide to stay that extra year because they're making such good money on NIL. So, even more so and more pronounced in basketball because they can go into the draft earlier there. But I absolutely think it's keeping guys in the game because they're able to make more. I don't want to beat on Shedeur Sanders any more than everybody already has over the past week. But, he likely made far more from NIL money last year than he's going to make from his NFL contract next year. Now, hopefully he can keep his sponsorships up and he's not going to see a huge dip in that. But, he's a great example of a player who likely made more last year than he's going to make from his professional contract next year.
That is crazy. And, of course, a lot of people said something about Quinn Ewers maybe should have stayed and transferred instead of entering the NFL draft. Now, you've got and I looked right here. You've got an NIL Get Started guide and an NIL for Parents Workshop. Tell us about what that all entails.
Yeah, before NIL, I never got emails from parents ever in my sports business reporting. But now I get emails from parents every single day because they're trying to figure out how to navigate this space. Parents of high school athletes, even parents of middle school athletes, because most states at this point allow NIL at the youth level. And you've got people preparing for college, or they're going through the recruiting process and they're getting presented with NIL contracts and revenue sharing contracts, and they don't understand them. And there's not a lot of education out there for parents, and not a lot for athletes until they get into college. And then a lot of the athletic departments have some good educational programs. But I just noticed, how many emails and DMs I was getting from athletes and parents, and I needed somewhere to send them to. So I kind of started with a spot on my website where I had some basic information to get started. Then I put on a little workshop, and I've got the recording of that people can get. In fact, I'm getting ready to re-record that and host another live one here soon. And then that grew into the book, which comes out this summer, the Athletes NIL Playbook. And that's kind of, not everything I know about NIL, but it's all the stuff you need to know to get started, to maximize your opportunities. And I really wanted to showcase athletes in that book you haven't heard of, because you hear about the huge NIL deals that are, 6 figures, 7 figures, but there are athletes out there in every division, in every sport, who are taking advantage of these opportunities, not only to make money, they get, free product, they are able to, there's a great story of an athlete, Division III golfer, and he was able to put together enough NIL deals to fund a trip to Scotland for a golf tournament that he got invited to that he otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford to go to. So athletes are doing some really cool stuff, and this is such a wonderful opportunity that I wanted to inspire athletes and their parents that this is for everybody. It might not look like the 7-figure deals, but there's things you can do that are going to impact you positively right now and even in your future career, and I want to help guide more athletes through that.
Chris, the last question for you. We all know about the big deals that the quarterbacks are getting, but just and you may not even know the answer to this, but let's say a typical offensive lineman at the University of Tennessee, what do you think an average guy like that makes in the NIL world?
Oh, just from the collective contract, they're for sure high 5 figures and likely into the low 6 figures. Wow. And then if they've got any sort of social media presence or, are a well-known athlete, a household sort of name, then they're probably getting brand deals and other opportunities outside of that as well that could really skyrocket that number depending on, how big that social following is and how active they are.
Hey, Christy, this is Andy. I got a question. First of all, for our listeners out there, you've got a book titled The Athletes NIL Playbook. I had a recommendation that your next book, you gear towards people like myself and call it The Dummy's Guide to NIL Deals.
Well, this is that, just with a different title.
Well, and I'm glad you said that. And one question that I have for you is, what is the most common type of NIL deals that you see amongst, we talk a lot about football and basketball, but these smaller sports, what are the most common type of deals that they're able to function under, and how do those coincide with what universities are able to allow?
It's still a lot of social media deals. However, I always tell athletes, if you don't have a big social media following, there's tons of other ways to make money on your NIL. And I would say the next sort of biggest category is camps and lessons and clinics. Lots of athletes in lots of sports who are making money doing private lessons or putting on camps and clinics because parents of high school athletes and middle school athletes and, even down below that, they want their athletes to be trained by people who made it to college and are playing at that level. And it doesn't matter that you're not a household name and that you don't have 100,000 followers on your Instagram. If you can teach, I was a softball pitcher growing up, and when I was in college, I did not play college softball, so I was allowed to teach private lessons, and I made really good money. And this was in the early aughts because I'm in my 40s now. I made great money in college teaching private lessons, and parents pay even more now for that than they did back when I was doing it. So there's some fantastic money to be made in that space, and I know some athletes taking advantage of that and building up their resume for jobs after graduation. So there's one young lady who's a track and field athlete at Baylor that I profiled in the book, and she teaches running lessons to youth athletes because she wants to be a coach after graduation, and this is stuff she can actually put on her resume that's going to help her get to that next level with her career, not just easy NIL money.
Christy, how can our listeners, how can they follow you? What's the best way for them to get your book, first of all, and how they can follow you?
Yeah, if you want to check out the book, it's at theathletesnilplaybook.com. It's up for pre-order already, and there's some fun pre-order bonuses I'm doing for people. And then I'm on pretty much every social media network as Sports Biz Miss, MISS at the end. And so folks can follow me there, and I'm always trying to share sort of the latest news and my breakdown of what's going on, and lots of information from the book as well.
Christy, we sure appreciate you sharing with us all of the things in the world of NIL, which is still a thing with me, but I'm much smarter today than I was yesterday after this conversation. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've actually got a family up there in Cleveland, Tennessee, so I was excited to be able to come on.
Oh, well, good. Who is it?
Small
We're
world.
Curious. Who?
Yeah, small town, so you probably know them, right?
What's their name?
Shout out to the Hardwicks, Marianne Hardwick and Clayton Hardwick, my great aunt and I guess my second cousin.
Interesting. The Hardwicks are a big time name in this town. Man, that's really cool to know. All right, Christy, you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting stuff. Isn't it crazy? This happens all the time.
Yeah, we're going to have her back on because there's a lot of stuff that we could have asked her.
Oh, for sure. She's a smart lady. I sat there one time. I told you I met her at the SEC football media days in Hoover, Alabama, and I was just wowed by her knowledge. Of course, she's an attorney. I'm these people are just so much smarter than me. It's sickening.
Me and you both. Hey, listen, you've been listening to The Drive. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have Rhett Bryan, the game day host and executive producer of Tennessee Titans Radio, to recap the Tennessee Titans NFL draft from this past weekend.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardees.
Introducing Hardee's new chicken cordon bleu sandwich. The goodness of a buttermilk dip, hand-breaded 100% white meat chicken filet stacked with thin sliced smoked ham, melty Swiss, and creamy honey mustard on a freshly toasted bun. For a gourmet take on an everyday favorite, the chicken cordon bleu sandwich is an indulgence you'll only find at Hardee's. Goodness in the making. Available for a limited time at participating restaurants.
Do your legs feel heavy, tired, or achy? Dr. James Gooden at Milligan Vein offers an office treatment that can make you look and feel better, and your procedure is covered by most insurance. Visit milliganvein.com or call Dr. Gooden today at 423-961-5682.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
ESPN Cleveland 101.3 is sending 2 lucky people to the Jacks Links 500 in Talladega April 26th and 27th. 3 races in 2 days. Don't miss your chance to see NASCAR's biggest stars take on the baddest track in what's sure to be an action-packed race. Listen for your chance to text in and qualify instantly on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. We're also giving away 2 tickets along with garage experience passes on our ESPN Cleveland socials. ESPN Cleveland 101.3 is powered by Duracell.
Cleveland Tire Center, locally owned and operated for over 45 years. Cleveland Tire, your one-stop auto care shop in Cleveland. North Lee Highway, where the name says it all.
Need a primary care provider? Erlanger Medical Group has more than any group in the region. And with 24 primary care locations, there's one near you. For an appointment, call 423-778-DOCS. That's 778-DOCS.
Welcome back to The Drive. Andy Morris here along with Jim Gum. You're listening to ESPN Cleveland 101.3. And listen, Christy Dosh, that was such a great call talking about NIL deals in college sports. But we're going to transition on over now to the NFL where, listen, Jim, I don't know about you, but I feel like the Tennessee Titans had a great draft this past weekend. And I'm excited to bring on Rhett Bryan, our good friend, executive producer and game day host of Tennessee Titans Radio. Rhett, are you there?
I'm there, Andy. How are you?
Good to hear from you, Rhett, and I appreciate you holding during the commercial break for us. Running a little bit behind here today, but it's always a pleasure to have you on with us.
Hey, I'm glad to do it, and it's a good way to recap what happened in the last 96 hours or so with the Titans. A lot of good stuff to report.
Yeah, so listen, just to kind of put it in brief terms, I guess, I feel like if you were going to label this draft for the Titans, I feel like it's probably the best draft that the Titans have had in years.
I think time will tell on that. I can understand why you're that fired up about it. I will say this, and we talked about this in previous visits with you, that this draft was not a loaded with rock stars and superstars kind of draft. It was a starter draft, a meat and potatoes draft where you get solid starters out of it. And then, if you develop somebody and they become a superstar, that's fantastic. But there's a lot of foundational and fundamental things they needed to do in this draft, and I think they got a lot of that done. They still have a lot of work to do. But, anytime you can take 6 selections and turn them into 9 picks, with a couple of trades between night 2 and day 3, they got some value. There's no question.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a can't miss going with Cam Ward with the first overall pick, quarterback from the University of Miami. And the thing that I like the most about that pick, that the Titans followed it up with some guys that are going to help them out. We saw a couple receivers go, Dyke from Florida, as well as the Stanford receiver and a tight end, Helm from Texas. So not only did they go with Cam Ward with the first overall pick, but then they addressed some issues to get some depth in some other positions to help him out a little bit.
No, you're right. And day 3, I mean, I thought they were going to draft all offense because the first 4 picks out of the 6 that they started with were offensive players. And listen, the other one, Jackson Slater, the guard / center, and I think that's where he's going to eventually end up as an insurance policy for Lloyd Cushenberry coming off of injury. He's not an empty chair either. He's a former shot put and javelin guy and did really well in this draft process. But to your point, yes, you want to try to surround the quarterback with all the weapons that you can. But the other part of it that is just a matter-of-fact bottom line, they have to score more than 18 points a game. I mean, in a league where, and certainly in a conference where you're battling the Patrick Mahomes and the Justin Herberts and the Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allens and, just in the division, you're going to have to put a bunch of points up on the board and hope your defense can get a takeaway and help you out. But that was it as much as anything. But you're right. They made a solid attempt to help him, and then while the Titans weren't able to report on it yet, finding Xavier Restrepo, Cam Ward's his favorite receiver at Miami last year, and getting him as an undrafted free agent is just kind of the icing on the cake in this. But he's going to have some help.
There's nothing like having someone that you're familiar with. Now, the one guy that I personally think the Titans just got a steal out of is Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Texas, big guy. Every time I watch Texas, this guy showed up big, and I thought that was one of the best picks that the Titans got the entire draft.
Well, he had a career year at Texas last year. He had 60 catches, 786 yards, almost 13 yards a catch, 7 touchdowns. And get this, in all of his time in college, only 2 drops. So, I mean, you got a good set of hands there. Now, listen, is he the fastest guy? No. He ran like a 4.83 in the 40 at the combine. But that's not what you're asking him to do. And he's big enough at the size that he is,
right,
which is, 6'5" and change and, about 250. He can help you as an inline guy, too. But absolutely, and, that was one of the good things about this draft is that there was value in some positions that you could have day 3 value in selecting in later round. And that's a perfect example is Gunnar Helm. I'll give you another one. There's a couple in this draft that I thought they did really well. They needed a safety opposite Amani Hooker. And when the Seahawks came calling on Friday night, because you were going to pick at 35 and then pick again at 103, that's a long time to watch guys come off the board.
Yeah, it is.
So Seattle calls. They give him 52. They take Olawufemi Oladejo, a pass rusher from UCLA. And then at 82 in round 3, a pick they didn't have in that round because of that Jarius Sneed trade last year, they take Kevin Winston Jr., who was a big-time thumper safety at Penn State. Now, he played in the season opener for them last fall and then felt a tweak in warm-ups in game 2 and came out after a series or 2, had to have ACL surgery. He is well on the backside of that.
Right.
And the guy is still 21 years old, and he is a thumper physical safety. But you can look at value throughout this thing. But as you mentioned it, Andy, Chimere Dike from Florida, that's a guy that ran 4.34 at the combine. We know what he can do. And I'm interested to go back and look at the difference between when Graham Mertz was throwing him the ball to DJ Lagway was throwing him the ball. And then Elikai Manor had a nice career at Stanford. So, yeah, there's options here. And even in the back of this thing, their last pick, Kalel Mullings, the guy is a converted linebacker while he was at Michigan and moved to running back and did very well for Michigan, the Wolverines.
Well, listen, you missed out at the beginning of the show, but Jim and I both were doing a little Michigan bashing to start the show. But I'm glad you brought him up because that was actually going to be one of my next questions. You look at teams and their drafts, and you nailed it with that last statement. But I feel like that really was a solid addition at the end of the draft. When you get those late picks, just like every team, you try to find lightning in a bottle, and he's definitely one of those guys that could possibly make your roster, that could be continue to learn at that level. Obviously, you don't see a lot of that use in the draft. It's guys that are established and pretty solid at what they do, but he's one of those guys that's almost like a project guy that could end up being pretty solid for some depth.
Well, and the thing is, he split time with the other back there, Donovan Jennings, I think it is. And, heck, he still had almost 1,000 yards. He had 5 yards of carry, 12 touchdowns, and then he caught a few out of the backfield. And you're talking about a guy that is 6'1.5", 226, big hands at 10 inches, 78-inch wing. And, again, with a linebacker background, that translates to a physical style of run and also a chance for a guy to immediately contribute as a core special teams player. And let me tell you something else, too. And I don't know if you've seen some of the reported list of undrafted free agents that they have apparently signed, and they just hadn't made it official. But I have my eye on a guy that played – he played at UNC Pembroke and then transferred to West Florida in Pensacola. He's a West Florida Argonaut. And this guy's name is Virgil Lemons. He's a cornerback by trade, but more than that, he's a returner. And if you'll remember, in this offseason, one thing that had to change was the special teams part of this. That was a big area of need for improvement. They went and got John Bones Fossil from the Dallas Cowboys, one of the best coordinators in the league. And I think Virgil Lemons may be a guy that he went and found. 5'11", 190 pounds, went to school at the big high school in Florida there, St. Thomas Aquinas, led the nation, despite division, with the most yards per punt return at over 25 yards per punt return. Has a 100-yard kick return last year and several punt returns over 50, 60 yards. And I know that's you're like, well, wait a minute, Rhett. That's, in some tiny conference, in Division II. I understand there's a difference in competition, but sometimes you find somebody in the rough like this that fell through the cracks. And I just wonder if this guy isn't one of them.
A diamond in the rough. We'll write it down. We'll keep you. We'll follow this kid all the way through. Now, let me ask you this, Rhett. What do you think the odds are? And we don't know. You're not the head coach, and I don't think the head coach even knows this. What do you think the percentages are that Cam Ward is the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans week number 1?
Given how the young man operates, and the more that I've seen from him and about him and talked to his coaches, I wouldn't be surprised if it was starting week 1. I can see a scenario where things are a little big for him and maybe it's somebody else for a week or two, but I just don't think so. So I had a chance to talk to his first head coach in college, Eric Morris, who's now at North Texas. He's the guy that recruited him to Incarnate Word there, a private school in Texas. And he said, Brett, you're going to love this guy because he is a natural-born leader. He absolutely is an alpha male type, and the moment isn't too big for him. And I spent time Sunday afternoon just going back and watching a couple of his games at Miami last year. He does not get in a hurry. He does not get rattled. He does not get – now, listen, I know that's the ACC, and that's not, I know it's going to be a totally different ballgame when you're talking about edge pass rushers in the NFL that are going to pin back their ears and try to go get him. But he just has this calm presence about him, and I'll tell you this, in talking to him and just listening to him speak, he speaks with this country charm. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of a guy from many years ago. He carries himself and talks and kind of acts like Steve McNair.
Oh, wow.
And if this guy's anything close to that, look out. Titans football is getting ready to be really, really fun. Coach Dave McGinnis, in his evaluation of him, he said, Rhett, you're going to think I'm crazy because I don't say things like this. He said, I went back and looked at my draft book from 2017, and I read some of the tendencies, some of the red flags as far as on-the-field operational things and things he can improve on. He said his thumbnail read a whole lot like Patrick Mahomes. He said, I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but the way that he plays and operates the pocket, the way he scrambles, and obviously the sidearm flick of the wrist, like a MLB shortstop firing in to first base to cut off a runner at first base. He said there are some tendencies there. He said the guy has special talent as kind of an elastic player in the pocket. And so when you think about those things, and you just start to hear more and more about who he is and where he's from, and I mean, he's the poster man for NIL and the transfer portal.
Yeah.
He went to Incarnate Word, and the other part of it, when you see that he was voted team captain everywhere he went, you don't get that. You don't get voted that. You earn that from your teammates. And he got better year over year in 3 different stops. And I don't know. He's just made different. And he's going to have a lot to learn over the summer, but this could be really fun. And again, I'm not saying they've arrived. I'm not saying everything's done. They still have many pieces that they need to fill in this roster. It's going to be a very young team in 2025. But I think there's a chance to have something to be hopeful about. And hope, as we all know, is a very strong thing.
Well, one thing that really stands out to me about Cam Ward is that, first of all, his work ethic. And you hit on it there a second ago. Everywhere he's been praised about his work ethic. And he not only works at his trade, but he's a leader. And I think that is going to transition well for him going from college to the NFL. And I watched an interview that he did on the OTP on the Titans YouTube page there, and he is so well spoken, and you can tell he's just a determined guy. And those guys that have the tangible tools, the arm talent, that can dissect a playbook, dissect a defense, that's always nice. But this is a guy that you can tell is passionate about what he does.
And the other thing that Coach Mack and even Brian Callahan said to us the other night, he can see things in space. He has spatial awareness when he's in the pocket.
That's a gift.
That's why Yeah, you can't teach that. You cannot coach that.
Right.
You can help a guy improve on it, but to have some innate traits like that, absolutely. And listen, to tell you what kind of dude he is, and I'm sure y'all had a conversation about this, but with everything that happened to a certain quarterback from Colorado in this draft, the night he was drafted, he didn't throw a party and do it a bunch. He went back to his hotel room, he packed up his bag, and he got ready to head to Nashville.
I love it.
It was very low-key. And I'm not trying to say disparaging things about Shedeur Sanders. You do you, fine, whatever. But for anybody who has a thought that he might have some kind of an attitude or anything to bring to the table like Shedeur Sanders, he brings that attitude to the football field and as a leader in the locker room and the rest of the stuff. He's just like the rest of us. He's down to earth, humble. I think you got the opposite of what people have been talking about in this draft. And I hate that for Cam, that story got buried because Shedeur dropped so far in this draft.
Yeah, once again, we're joined by Rhett Bryan, the executive producer and game day host of Titans Radio. And last thing I got for you, Rhett, is, everyone, we've talked about the draft and draft coverage and how exciting it is. And now not only can you just watch it on ESPN, you can listen to it on the radio, and you can go to each team's broadcast and listen, kind of get some insights to their war room. A question that our producer Philip had here was, how much insight do you guys get to the upcoming draft picks that you're about to make? As in the Titans. Are you guys giving a heads up at all, or are you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants like the rest of us?
No, we do not get any kind of heads up whatsoever, just because, you don't need people leaking out what you're doing. I've never been in that war room. I've never seen a board on a wall. I am going off of the experience that I have learned from Coach Dave McGinnis, who have been in those rooms, been in those situations. I asked him 7 years ago, will you please tell me and teach me how to do this just like you have done it, like teams do it? And he said, Rhett, I don't do this for anybody. He said, are you willing to put in the work? Because there's a lot of work. We started working on this about 3 or 4 days after the regular season was over, and our work wasn't finished till about a week before the draft. We looked at 250 prospects. He watches the tape. I watch some highlights and other things, but I do all the digging in the background. And for medical rechecks, red flags off the field, anything legal, any of those things, plus public interest stories of these guys. And I just start committing things to memory. I mean, I think it's too bad Earth Day was the other day, because I killed about 4 trees over this process in printing stuff off the copier and having binders and notebooks. But I love this because it is the architecture of not only the Titans but the league. And the great thing that, with the way Mac taught me this, and looking at all those guys, we will see a handful of these guys on every team the Titans play this year, because a lot of them were drafted and are going to get a chance to play. But no, we do not get any kind of heads up as to this is going to be the pick or any of that stuff. In fact, Coach Callahan, we showed him our draft board. We had it printed off on an Excel spreadsheet. And he said, this is pretty good, guys. I kind of like this. I said, our head coach of Titans Radio over there is the one that deserves all the credit, because he works the phones, he watches the film, and I do the rest.
One thing, Rhett, is that at the end of the regular season, there was a lot of negativity about the Tennessee Titans. It's completely turned to 180. There's so much positivity coming out of Nashville right now. The fan base is excited. And I know it's because of Cam Ward, but this overall draft, I think the Titans get an A in my book. And I think the mindset going into the 2025 season is much, much better than it was this time last year.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think the thing that Brian Callahan and this organization is trying to do is win more than 3 ball games and score more than 18 points and, cut down. I mean, when you scored 33 touchdowns as an offense and you had 28 turnovers, those numbers are never going to – that's never good. And
right.
When you're minus 16 in turnover ratio and giveaway, takeaway, you can't – at 37% on third down, you can't do that. You have to be better in those areas. And that's what they're trying to do. And I'm hopeful too. They got a lot of work to do in this, but you're right. They have a lot of things that are moving towards a positive direction, and if they can notch a win here and there, who knows?
Hey, Rhett, last thing I got for you, we're talking about additions to the Titans. Last week we were able to interview a new radio addition and the new voice of the Titans, Taylor Zarzor. Kind of talk about your relationship with Taylor here early on as he's starting to get his feet wet with Tennessee Titans football, and just your outlook for the upcoming season from the radio booth.
Sure. Well, and that's another thing. We have a lot of work to do on Titans radio because he hasn't moved here completely yet. He will later in the summer because of his obligations with other things that he does. He's a great guy, and I think you gathered that by talking to him last week. He's very, very approachable, amenable, and very knowledgeable. I mean, he's called football games on telecasts on the SEC network for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And then he does all of the majors for the PGA on Sirius XM. So he had just come back from Augusta. He interviewed Rory McIlroy not long after he got his green jacket in Augusta a couple of weeks ago. So he's got some credentials. And but yeah, he joined us for part of the draft coverage on Thursday night and was great. And I think all of this is going to work well. And I just didn't know what it was going to be like without Mike Keith. And I think all of this is going to work out for the best. I think Mike will crush it on the Vol Network, and I think Titans Radio is going to live to tell about it.
I love it. Well, man, Rhett, we appreciate it, partner.
Yeah, glad to be with you guys. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll visit again.
Yeah, thank you, Rhett. Definitely going to have you on again and talk more as the offseason continues and we get a little bit closer to preseason and the kickoff of Tennessee Titans football.
Yeah, organized team activities, rookie mini camps in a couple of weekends. We'll have a mandatory mini camp, and then, boy, it'll be almost time to be off to the races. So here we go.
That's it. Once again, Rhett Bryan, the executive producer and game day host of the Tennessee Titans Radio. Rhett, thanks again, man.
All right, y'all have a good one.
You too, Rhett. Yeah, listen, Rhett Bryan, real deal, man. He's always got great insight on what's going on up there in Nashville with the Titans. And, again, we talked about it during that interview, but a great draft for Tennessee and definitely, I think, brighter days on the horizon for the Tennessee Titans.
You know, I don't want to come across as Debbie Downer, but when they drafted Will Levis, I thought, this is a mistake. It's a mistake. I saw the guy play way too many times at Kentucky. I'm like, this is not a fluke. That's the real guy we saw in Lexington, and it turned out, unfortunately, to be a mistake by the Titans. But like he said, Cam Ward, and what I saw an interview with him, he doesn't have hobbies. His hobby is a quarterback. He goes, I'm a quarterback. When people talked about me, I want them to talk about I'm a quarterback.
Did you see the interview
with him and Shedeur?
It wasn't an interview, but it was them working out and they were interacting.
Yeah,
correct.
interacting.
That's the term. And Shedeur was trying to get him to do a rap. He said, "I'm not a rapper. I'm a football player."
I love it.
Yeah,
when I saw that, I said, "That's the kind of guy I want running my franchise. A guy that doesn't want to be a cool dude. He just wants to be a quarterback that wins football games. And you know, everywhere these guys been, he's been a winner. I mean, so." I think the Titans have got themselves a heck of a quarterback. So, listen, the future's bright in Nashville. They're building that brand new stadium. It'll open up in a couple of years. And they've got the nucleus, I think, for a pretty good offensive at the quarterback position. You got to get that offensive line to protect him. That's a number one priority. And I'm sure they'll be looking around at guys that are getting cut, maybe bring them in to fill the gaps there. But I think that's going to be a priority for the Titans to get that offensive line where it needs to be to protect their franchise quarterback. The future's bright in Nashville.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to cover some Atlanta Braves. Excited to talk Atlanta Braves. Another win last night for the Bravos. And listen, all of our Braves coverage here on The Drive is brought to you by Mayfield Dairy. So when we come back, talking Braves baseball.
The Drive will be back after a quick timeout. Stay tuned for more nonstop sports talk on The Drive, presented by Hardees. It's time for a Don Ledford of Cleveland traffic update on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Don Ledford Chevrolet Buick GMC, located on North Lee Highway in Cleveland. Or visit donledford.com for details. Don Ledford, where we say yes. It's on-time traffic with Commander Chuck.
Good afternoon. It remains heavy out here on all the major outbound routes, especially certain sections of Highway 153 southbound over here at Lee Highway. It's busy right. There's been lots of radars south of Chattanooga today on 75. We also had to deal with that earlier on 24 around Montego Mountain. Hey, Rick's Lock and Key is Chattanooga's leading locksmith since 1973. If you need them 24 hours a day, call Rick's Lock and Key 892-1700. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
From the Alon Planning Partners Weather Center, here's your forecast on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Visit them online at alonplanning.com or give them a call at 423-315-1441.
Mostly cloudy as we head into our Tuesday night. Overnight, 63 for the low heading into Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, partly to mostly cloudy, 86 degrees. It is going to be warm, humid, and might even see a few spotty showers in the afternoon as well. Thursday, we'll have a high of 85. A few showers, maybe even a rumble of thunder on Thursday. And then on Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms likely with a high of 80 degrees. Download the Local 3 weather app, free for iPhone and Android. I'm Chief Meteorologist David Carnes for the Local 3 Storm Alert Team.
Your current Milligan Vein temperature is 81 degrees.
Come to the Don Ledford Pre-Owned Vehicle Department and save big during their April Don Ledford Truck Month. You'll save big with tremendous discounts on over 45 pre-owned pickup trucks and SUVs in their inventory. Don Ledford Pre-Owned Trucks and SUVs in Cleveland is the dealership to go if you're looking for quality, variety, and a dealership you can trust to back up every pre-owned vehicle that they sell. During this annual April Truck Month sales event, they'll have big savings on over 45 pre-owned trucks, SUVs, and vans. They have Chevrolet, GMC, Ford, Ram, Dodge, Jeep, Honda, and Toyota. Almost every brand of truck, SUV, and van is here. There is truly something for everyone. Go to donledford.com and review the vehicles you're interested in, and then visit their showroom, 4595 North Lee Highway, Cleveland, to inspect and test drive your choice. Don Ledford Pre-Owned Trucks and SUVs in Cleveland, selling pre-owned vehicles you can trust since 1981. Sale ends April 30th, 2025.
Got an injury that just can't wait? There's no need to delay your care. Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics is excited to announce that our Urgent Ortho Walk-In Clinic is now available on Saturdays at the Gun Barrel Road location. Open from 8 to noon, we're here to treat sprains, strains, fractures, and more. No appointment needed. So skip the long ER wait and get specialized orthopedic care fast. Visit us this Saturday at Center for Sports Medicine and Orthopedics Urgent Ortho. We're the center for expert care right when you need it. Learn more at sportmed.com.
Strawberries and springtime go hand in hand. Now at Hardees, they come together with a hint of lemon in our famous buttermilk biscuits. Introducing Hardees Strawberry Lemon Biscuits, loaded with berry goodness and drizzled in icing. Served warm from sunrise to supper time. The perfect taste to bring on the sunshine all day long. But hurry, this special strawberry lemon flavor is as fleeting as springtime itself. Hardees, goodness in the making. Available for a limited time. Exclusions may apply by time of day.
We tend not to think about right now, but right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. When you give to the V Foundation, 100% of your donation goes directly to game-changing cancer research. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you. Donate at V.org, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Don't miss the Paul Feinbaum Show, weekday afternoons from 2 until 5 on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Always topical, always entertaining. Paul Feinbaum on ESPN Cleveland 101.3, presented by Hardees.
This is Thomas Williams with Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. Stop by today and take advantage of Bradley County's largest pre-owned inventory, or visit cleveland-nissan.com, home of the lifetime warranty.
Need a new shop, garage, or other unique space? Explore post-frame building kits from Best Buy Metals. Best Buy Metals kits utilize steel trusses for the ultimate in strength and durability. When you need it to last, call Best Buy Metals. Stop by or visit bestbuymetalroof.com for your custom structure.
Mayfield Ice Cream. Turn your freezer into your own personal ice cream shop with Mayfield Dairy's latest products. The Sunday Delights Ice Cream Cups, now available in 5 flavors. Peanut butter candy pieces, cookies and cream, original chocolate fudge, original caramel, and original fudge. Mayfield Dairy, proud sponsor of all of your Drive Atlanta Braves coverage. Jim, talking about the Atlanta Braves here on our last segment, and last night, win game 1 of the three-game set out in Colorado, 6-3, and every player in the Braves lineup recorded a hit.
Well, the Braves get down 3-0 early. I mean, it was 3-0 after 4 batters in, and poor old Alex Verdugo, he just flat out missed that ball out in the outfield. But he made up for it. You know, he stayed hot, like you said, 2 hits. And listen, you look at the Braves lineup. We're talking about a team that was led yesterday by Alex Verdugo, Nick Allen, and Eli White. I'll promise you, in March, talking about the Braves, we weren't talking about any of those 3 guys. None of those guys.
Yeah, those are role player guys.
Yeah, and they have come up big here, especially the Braves are hot right now.
Yeah.
They've won, 8 out of the last 10 or something like that. I think they're 8 out of the last 10. And I know they're still 6.5 games out, but they're only 2 games out of from hitting the 500 mark. You want to get to 500. Once you reach that plateau, in May, if the Braves can continue to play good baseball, and the schedule lines up pretty darn good in May, the Braves can make some headway and get themselves back into position to compete for the postseason. Before you compete for the National League East, you got to get into talk about at least the postseason play. Then go after the division after that. But they're playing well. We know that Ronald Acuna Jr. is on the way back. So once they get him, and you feel like he's going to contribute a lot, I think the future is looking really good for this team. My biggest concern is going to be the tail end of that bullpen, and they'll address that. They always do, and we'll see what they do, because there are going to be some guys available at the trade deadline. There's no question about that.
Yeah, the Braves, in fact, have won 8 of their last 10, which is a good way to get caught back up, trying to get back to 500 and trying to be competitive in the National League East. And last night was a good start, winning that game 6-3. And hopefully the Braves are able to take the series tonight. But last night, again, you talked about Bryce Elder giving up those 3 runs early. But after that, it looked like he just flipped the switch and was able to lock in for the Braves and really had a solid night after that, going 6 innings for Atlanta and only allowing 5 hits total. So it was one of those things. Sometimes we've seen him come out and it's a little bit of a slow start, and you kind of worry like, oh, is this about to implode? And then he settles down and gets it together. Last night was one of those nights. And then you talked about the back end of the bullpen. Raciel Iglesias recorded his 5th save of the season. That's a guy. There's a lot hanging on Raciel Iglesias right now. We need him to be as solid as possible at the back end of that bullpen until a move's made, or until we can get him some help and allow him maybe some extra rest in between appearances. But that's one of those things that we'll continue to monitor and talk about that Braves bullpen, because there's some guys, there's some arms in there with some potential to settle in and have a solid season. Raciel Iglesias, however, is just one of those guys that really scared you early in the season with some of his struggles, specifically giving up the long ball. And that's something that we hope, for Raciel's sake, he can straighten out and do his job closing out baseball games.
Well, when obviously he's lost a couple mile an hour on his fastball. We know that. But his pitch is that slider. And when he hangs it, people are going to hit it. And when he's on, he's still got great stuff. His ball moves pretty good. So, like I said, he's not going to wow you with he's not going to throw 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But he's pinpoint accurate, and he's got that great slider, and that's his money pitch. So when he's on with that, he's still pretty effective. Is he the best reliever in baseball? No, but he's not the worst.
No, not at all.
He's solid. He's solid, and there's going to be nights when he's off, and it's going to happen. But name me a reliever out there that's not going to blow a save. Every single team has those. But, talking about the poor old Rockies, they've won 4 games whole year.
You feel bad for manager Bud Black because that's a guy that when there were a lot of job openings, he was getting a lot of calls.
Yeah.
He's a guy that is unfortunately just been dealt with a roster and kind of a rebuild after they unloaded some guys that had been in the organization for a while, and he's just kind of, I can't imagine having to show up to the ballpark every day, and I'm sure he's still showing up doing his job, and I'm sure those guys, a lot of young guys on that team are trying to get things straightened out, but that's got to be rough. Walking in every day and seeing where you're at the bottom of the standings, seeing that record, 4 wins on the year. We were stressing out as Braves fans early. Can you imagine showing up as Bud Black?
No, I mean, this is reminiscent of the Chicago White Sox last year. I mean, this team lost, 120 games last year, the White Sox did. And the Rockies are on the way to having at least 110 losses.
That's insane.
Unless they turn things around. Now, listen, I don't know what their farm system's like, but I'll promise you, if I'm with that organization, I'm like, we need to see who else out there can play better than these guys.
Yeah.
Because obviously the guys you're putting out there right now are not getting it done.
Get some young guys some opportunities.
Get some of these guys from the AAA.
Be consistent with it.
Yeah. Make some trades. Get some warm bodies in there. You may have to give up some frontline guys right now, but you've only won 4 baseball games, so the bottom line is getting some new blood on the field there in Colorado. So yeah, that would be rough to be a fan of a team that's only won 4 games here at the end of April.
Yeah, and again last night, every single Braves player recorded a hit. And, man, that's just insane. 14 hits total for Atlanta. Sean Murphy accounted for 2 of those. Sean Murphy is a guy that you said this the other day. I fully expect him to be the starting catcher during the All-Star game in Atlanta this year. Very excited for the complete turnaround that we've seen for Sean Murphy from last year to this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the catchers for the Dodgers, Giants, and Phillies and Mets are doing, but I've seen Murphy – and, I mean, I can't imagine anyone else having a better season than him right now. Like I said, maybe I need to do a little bit more research on those teams that are having really, really good seasons. But, man, he has been lights out. He's been the most consistent player the Braves have had this year. And, of course, he missed, was it the first week? Since he came back, he's been just automatic. When he's up at the plate, I fully expect the guys to do something good.
Yeah.
Because he's really shown that that's another trade that the Braves made to get this guy. They look like geniuses. I mean, how many great players have they gotten off that Oakland Athletics roster over the last
Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, those are 2 of them.
Oh, yeah, and they've gotten some more off beyond that. But so the Braves have just taken them to the cleaners when it comes to trades, for sure.
Yeah, and I believe the Josh Donaldson deal was another one going back a few years.
Yeah.
But, hey, the Braves do play Colorado again tonight. Up there in the mountains, we talked about that yesterday. Jim taught us all a lesson that the Braves have the second highest elevation in Major League Baseball. That was news to me. But playing the Rockies, trying to take the series tonight and finish up that road trip with another series win. First pitch tonight right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3 at 8:40. It'll also be on Mix 104.1, but the pre- and post-game show will be right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. Pre-game, once again, with the Braves Radio Network. Proud to be partnered with them and carry all of your Atlanta Braves baseball games, sponsored by Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. And so I do believe, so earlier today, they had not released today's starter for Atlanta, but it does look like it's going to be A.J. Smith-Shawver. So, who's currently 0-2 on the year with a 4.61 ERA. So hopefully A.J. can get things going. Lock in the series win, so the Braves are coming back home, ready to try to attack the top of the division.
Yeah, and we're going to be preempted tomorrow because they have a 3:10 start Wednesday afternoon, so unfortunately we will not be on. But you can hear the Braves right here on ESPN Cleveland. So, we're excited. The Braves, listen, the next time you and I meet, they may be a 500 team.
Yeah, listen, and
who would have thought that?
To start 0-7.
Yeah.
And really, to put it in perspective, a lot of people thought, hey, this is going to take a while to dig out of this if they're going to. Well, they're going to have to – they were talking about when Acuna came back. Acuna's not back yet, and they're doing this.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine where that clubhouse, where that locker room is right now as far as being motivated, you've got some guys that the fire's been lit. And I do, going back a week or so ago, Matt Olson made some comments, who's usually a quiet guy. I think little things along the way, that being one of them, was kind of a spark for those guys saying, hey, listen, Matt's speaking up. Olson is the guy that's fired up and irritated. We got to get our stuff together.
Yep. And you know what? We knew that the Braves' record was a little bit they weren't as bad as the record indicated because of the competition they'd played. And obviously, you're not going to be playing the Dodgers and Padres and the Mets and Phillies every single series. So when you're playing teams like Arizona, when you're playing teams like Colorado, you got to take advantage of it. And the Braves are doing that. They're taking advantage of their competition, and that's what all these other teams have done so far as well. So, no, the Braves are going to be just fine. They're going to be in the hunt all season long, assuming that they don't get any major injuries. And that's always out there, because it's not a question of if, it's a question of when and who and how many games. Every team in Major League Baseball goes through some injuries. That's going to happen. But you just hope it's not serious stuff and that they can overcome it. But the key is to be healthy at the end of the year. If you're going to be hurt in April. You know, get yourself feeling better, and then by the time the hot months roll around, and then the dog days of August roll around, and September, when the pennant chase
when things start getting real,
you want to be healthy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And right now, Braves sitting at 6.5 games behind the first place New York Mets. Talk about a team that started off on a complete tear. The New York Mets are 20-9 on the season, and they're getting healthy too. They started off kind of banged up. I believe McNeil's coming back. They've got some guys that are ready to go there in New York. So I'm looking forward later on down the road, which we've got a while before we play the Mets, but I'm looking forward to those matchups.
And the Mets put it to the Phillies when they played head to head. Just what was this past weekend? So the Mets are the real deal. That's a good baseball team. They're in the Queens in New York. So I love it. I love the division. I love the rivalries that the Braves have with the Mets and Phillies.
They're in Flushing. Just like a toilet.
Yeah,
Flushing.
It is Flushing, but it's the boroughs, Queens, right?
Yes, it is.
Queens.
You're right.
So what are the 5 boroughs? You got Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Richmond. Or Staten Island.
Yeah. That's right.
I think
that's right.
Richmond or Staten Island are the same thing. So there. Hey, see,
listen,
we actually know more than sports here.
Jim
Gum, boroughs.
Jim Gum is also apparently in his spare time a geography teacher as well.
I love geography.
Yeah,
I love it.
You got us with the elevation question yesterday. Yeah. Got us with the boroughs in New York today.
You know the one about the Amazon River, don't you?
I believe you threw this one at me already.
Yeah. The Amazon River, as big as it is, there's not a single bridge that spans the Amazon River. Not one bridge in the whole length.
Yeah, that's wild.
Because of the flooding that goes on. And it's a very sparse population there. So
yeah, so Atlanta Braves, after they finish up this series with Colorado, Dr. Jim is what we're going to start calling you. But after they finish up the series with Colorado, Friday they'll be back in Atlanta taking on the LA Dodgers. Excited. Listen, got some payback that we owe the Dodgers after they whipped us at the beginning of the year.
Yet? Is he back with the Dodgers yet?
That's a good question.
I can't remember. I haven't been paying attention to the Dodgers, but Freddie Freeman, he hurt himself getting in out of the shower.
Falling out of the shower, apparently.
That's one you don't want to. Listen, if I'm Freddie Freeman, I'm saying, no, man, I hurt myself. There was a robber broke into my house, and I was trying to save my wife and child. Not that I slipped in the shower. Come on.
Yeah, Freddie is back. He is back in their lineup. So very dangerous lineup and pitching rotation for the Dodgers. Obviously, one of the best teams of baseball.
What's your opinion of Freddie Freeman? You like him?
I think he's a great guy. I'd like him a lot more if he found his way to stay in Atlanta. That just still does not sit well with me, the way that all went down. He should have been a Brave for life.
Yeah.
But listen, with stuff like that happens, sometimes there's a silver lining, and the silver lining's Matt Olson, and I am a huge Matt Olson fan. Love Matt Olson.
You had a Matt Olson jersey on yesterday.
I was rocking it yesterday.
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah,
I love the red jerseys.
Yeah, the Friday Reds.
I love them, man.
But yeah, so looking forward to some big games coming up with the Braves here in the near future. And listen, so next Monday on the 5th, Hard to believe we're already going to be in May. Can you believe that?
Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah, May 5th. But you know what that is? That's Braves Reds. So Jim and I, we're going to have a fun Monday, Tuesday show that week talking Braves Reds.
May 4th, isn't that May the 4th be with you? Is that what is
May the 4th.
that's on Sunday, I think.
Yeah, the Braves will be playing the Dodgers then.
Oh, Lord, that's funny.
Yeah, but once again, Braves taking on Colorado tonight, game 2 of the 3-game series as they try to take the series right here on ESPN Cleveland 101.3 and on our sister station Mix 104.1, and that is presented by Mountain View Nissan of Cleveland. So again, no show tomorrow because of that 3:10 first pitch for the Braves, but hang in there and you'll be able to listen to Finish Line Radio immediately after the Braves game. But yeah, excited, a lot going on, and Jim, I believe you'll be back with us Friday, right?
I'll be here. You ask me if you want me, whenever you want me, I'll be here. I just can't be here tomorrow.
Okay, well, listen, especially on May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, we're going to come in. We're going to you represent your Reds, I'll represent my Braves, and we might have some chips and salsa here with us, too, and some Mayfield milk or something to go along with it.
You got that right. Hey, by the way, appreciate Christy Dosh coming on with us, and Rep Brian. Great guys. Great guys. Great gal, great guy today. So they really educated us on what's going on with the NIL and the Tennessee Titans.
That's it. Hey, for Jim Gum, I'm Andy Morris. You've been listening to The Drive on ESPN Cleveland 101.3. We will be back with you guys, not tomorrow, right? Not tomorrow. So hang in there, and we'll be back eventually if they let us.
The Kia of Cleveland Studios. This is ESPN Cleveland 101.3, WCLE HD2 Cleveland, W267BI Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland 101.3.
The top of the hour is presented by Best Buy Metals, making the top of your house the best it can be. Visit bestbuymetalroofing.com.
Ding, drop, ding, drop.